The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time is one of the most legendary video games of the entire franchise. It's probably one of the best video games that Nintendo had produced back in the 90s, and to this day, it still has a profound impact on the lives of many gamers who have played it back in the day. And it was revolutionary because it was probably the first Zelda game to introduce time travel as a in-game mechanic, where players were able to travel back and forth between Link's childhood and his adult years, and it was a game that it was like the first 3D installment of the entire franchise. I think that was another thing about Ocarina of Time that made it so special. And since its release, it ended up being one of the best-selling video games on the N64, and I believe the game managed to reach like roughly under like 8 mil in terms of overall sales. And the game did get remade for the Nintendo 3DS back in like 2011 or something, but graphically, it wasn't really an improvement from what we got on the N64. And honestly, it's baffling to think that Nintendo never produced a home console remake of the Ocarina of Time, especially considering the fact that's one of their best installments. Now, Nintendo did give us like a remastered version of Twilight Princess, which came out back in 2006. And while that was a good game, it's highly overrated. I don't think it's quite as good as people thought it was. It was probably like the best Zelda game of the 2000s, but honestly, people overrate the hell out of it nowadays. And there are many people who go on record and tell you that Ocarina of Time was a better game than Twilight Princess, more fun, more memorable, more iconic, everything. And a lot of people are looking at the latest Zelda game that came out, Tears of the Kingdom, and they're still enjoying it. And they're thinking, where is Nintendo going to go with the Zelda franchise? Because it seems like they've been going everywhere over the past few decades. Because you look at the timeline for The Legend of Zelda, there's like multiple like alternate timelines, and then every game that comes out is like a prequel or a sequel to a prequel or what have you. And and for the most part, it's going to be hard to top, Tears of the Kingdom along with Breath of the Wild. And some people think that maybe, just maybe, Nintendo should produce a current generation remake for Ocarina of Time on the Switch 2 console. And I've actually read that there's been rumors, like on Reddit, there's been like rumors that that's something that Nintendo could be working on in private, or it's something that they might consider in the future. But the thing is, a lot of people are thinking, like, why wasn't this done a lot sooner, like for the Switch console or what have you? But the thing is, if we do get in Ocarina of Time remake for the Switch 2, that would be awesome, especially if they use the same type of like graphics and aesthetics and gameplay that we got in Tears of the Kingdom. Because what we got in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom looked amazing. Just like the way it looked, the way it felt, and the fact that it was an action adventure game that stood out from your typical action adventure titles from the PlayStation 5 for the most part, where more emphasis was placed on exploration and all that stuff. And I do feel that, an Ocarina of Time remake on the Switch 2 console will look amazing, especially considering the fact that the Switch 2 is reportedly supposed to have as much power as the PlayStation 5. I'm not sure whether or not it's going to have, 4K graphics, or if it's going to be, top notch like what we got for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X in terms of, I guess, visual display. But I do feel that Ocarina of Time remake is something that should be on Nintendo's priority list because um, they got to do something to try and get more people into the Zelda series. Because even though The Legend of Zelda franchise has a pretty large fan base. I feel like this is something that's been on their wish list for quite some time, because it seems like when Nintendo wants to remaster games, they seem to remaster games that are just like, whatever. Like recently, we got Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, remastered or what have you, and a lot of people are saying nothing but good things about it. And we know for the most part that Nintendo rarely remasters like classics. They always like to move forward with their franchises, whether it be Mario, whether it be Zelda, whether it be Metroid or anything else. And I do feel that a just like a remake of Ocarina of Time is something that is money. I do feel like a remake of Ocarina of Time would do like at least like 5 or 6 mil on the Switch too, if Nintendo is interested or has any plans on making that a reality. But I don't think Nintendo has necessarily gone on record or made any type of public announcement on doing a current generation, potentially like 4K remake on Ocarina of Time, but it's something they should definitely consider, and maybe like even do Majora's Mask, for the Switch too, using the same type of graphics and aesthetics that we got in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, because those two games are considered to be legendary, and I do feel like those two games are what really turned people on to like the 3D Zelda series. And I do feel like those two games helped expand, the fan base for Legend of Zelda going into, the 2000s decade. And and quite frankly, I mean, like I said, those are things that are on top of a lot of people's wish list. I'm not exactly sure if Nintendo has any interest on making that a reality, but like for the most part, it doesn't seem like Nintendo's coming out with any like big high profile games anytime in the future aside from like Mario Kart 9 or Metroid Prime 4, and we're still waiting for updates on those things. But as far as the Zelda series is concerned, I'm pretty sure that an Ocarina of Time remake for the Switch 2 is something that a lot of people wouldn't mind seeing.